Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'da, habati fillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive our evil. Bless us with ikhlas, with thabat ala sunnah. Sunnah to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Habati fillah, a question was asked about Hijrah. And a lot of times we get kathratan as'ila on Hijrah. A lot of questions about Hijrah, as many people want to know places to go. Is it okay? What about Hijrah to Mauritania? What about Hijrah to Saudi? What about Hijrah to Egypt? Hijrah to Indonesia? Hijrah to Malaysia? So people ask often about the concept of Hijrah. Hijrah is something azim in Islam. It's a great form of ibadah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with if the person does hijrah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning they leave the place of disbelief to the land of belief, or they leave the land of bid'ah to sunnah, the land of kufr to the land of Islam. There are various types of hijrah. Also, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that hijrah from one's sinfulness to obedience to Allah is a type of hijrah, meaning leaving off your sins, coming back to the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is likewise, it's a type of hijrah. This is also a type of, and that's the hijrah which is wajib upon us all, that the scholars mention. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned it's the afdal hijrah. It's the best hijrah, leaving off your sins and coming to obedience to Allah. So now getting back to the mas'ala of hijrah to the land of the Muslims, or to a place where you can practice your Islam better. There are a few things that people need to consider, because sometimes people say, hey, I have 16 kids, I have 11 kids, I want to make hijrah to such and such country. What do you think? And I say, well, you're going to have to look first and foremost to where you can afford you can afford, or you can offer something, or you can make money. You do need to think about lifestyle and living. That's very important to make the hardships less upon you by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is tying your camel. That is being wise. Because if you try to make hijrah with no money and a large family, you are opening yourselves up more than likely to more difficulty and in your travels and in your journey. So it's so important for the believer to tie his or her camel. Another thing is look to those places. Again, look at the financial thing and what your ability is and what your aptitude is as far as skills. Also look to the place where you're going to be able to practice your Islam better. Will you be able to practice the sunnah better? Will you be able to do talib al-ilm? What are the options for your children if you have children? That's very, very important. So those are just some issues to consider when trying to make hijrah. And hijrah is not sahal. It's not easy. Because with it being such an excellent high form of worship, that means there are a lot of challenges, and it means your intention must be to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا أَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Verily, actions are tied to the intentions. And everyone shall get that for which he intended. Therefore, he who migrates for Allah and his messenger, then he has migrated for Allah and his messenger. And he who migrates for some worldly matter, or to take some woman in marriage, then he will get that for which he migrated for. This you'll find in Bukhari and Muslim. So this hadith shows us the importance, how hijrah is a high duty in Islam, and that hijrah requires intention, and that hijrah is a great act of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that being the case, it's very important to consider all of those factors. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive our evil. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sallam.